So we begin with the idea of generating power for martial arts. There are multiple forms of power generation available. One of them is to bounce and to just sink your weight into the technique. And they're all going to involve sinking a little bit of weight. The method I use is a lot of hip rotation and grounding. So one of the areas that we're going to get into is the drill I call walking the garden. And this comes from years ago. Like in other media, I've explained where this drill comes from. But I'm going to get two weights. They don't have to be jars, although you can, if your hand spans, you can work your grip with the weights too. And for walking the garden, we might do that. We might work the span of the hand. What I'm going to do on walking the garden is I'm going to first walk with my hands level with my belt. Bring up the hip. And as you can see, I'm moving how I was moving with sanchin, and I'm going to move back. To help you get used to sinking weight. The reason why these weights are done at hip level, that's where I'm sinking the weight to. I want to sink it into my hips as much as possible for grounding. I want to get used to grounding my technique. Grounding, pushing down with my body. It makes this movement a lot easier. It makes it easier to stay one height or close to one height when you're moving about on the mat or in the ring or in the street. So you become a moving shield. So that's the first drill. So whether you have weights or not, you might have jars. You want to hold that weight about belt level and let it sink at hip level. I want to sink weight into the hips. And I can choose to lock out my hips and sink the weight or not lock out my hips. That is up to you. I choose to lock out my hips, but that's for sanchin reasons. The first walking the garden drill, you've got your weights, you're holding them out back straight. And you can do sanchin breathing while you do it. You just make repetitions. Pick out a spot in the yard, work the stabilizers in your foot. Just walk from one end of your yard to the other, one end of the house to the other. You can do this drill so many different ways. And so we get into walking the garden. So I can choose to pitch grip my weights. I've got my fingers in the holes for retention purposes. And I don't want to send one flying off and hitting the camera. I joke, but worse things have happened in martial arts training. So for hip rotation, what I'm going to do, I'm going to move forward and I'm going to move the hip and then swing the weight and keep that weight at belt level. That is important. So as I move, I am going to sink my weight and then I'm going to twist the hips and torque that power into the hand. And so what that eventually does is it gets you used to hip rotation. Also, not bobbing while you have hip rotation. So instead of dropping the weight, having dropped the weight, being hard on your knees, your hips move independently. Well, not really, because you're using the torque off the ground. You're not having to drop weight into the technique, and that's important. We want to have functioning knees when we get older. The dropping the weight method, I had an instructor call it galloping. The galloping method is very hard on your knees because you're sinking weight into a sudden stop and you're twisting those knees. So I don't want to do that. I want my knee movement to be natural and forgiving. So you get used to throwing that shoulder and that hand. So when I'm here, I'm throwing the shoulder and the hand. And later on, I might sink the knee into the technique, but right now, it's really about getting that hip rotation, rotating the hips, getting that torque off the ground into the hips, through the spine, out the shoulder, out the hand, into the target. And then with bone alignment, feeling the reverberation, letting it escape out your shoulder. That is bone alignment in a symphony of movement with hip rotation and grounding. The only way for you to learn this is to just do it. These are 10-pound weights. We're going to be using these throughout the rest of this video. 10-pound weights can help you achieve that. These are ones, fortunately, got big hands. So, from here, and then the drill is as simple as that. You're just walking. You're walking with it. All right, the next drill we're going to look at, and this is just for kicking. This is one of the ways we develop power in our kicking. We're going to throw a front kick. It doesn't have to be real high. But you remember when I was talking about being on your tippy toes. We're going to be pushing the gas pedal. So when I push the gas pedal with the weights in the hands, it's not so much counterbalance. What it is going to do when I slowly throw this kick is it's going to engage my core. And when I feel that core tighten up, and you're going to know when you feel it with weights in your hands. The weights are important, they're out here. So when I kick, also I like to drag and open up the hip on my kick. That's why you see me drag my foot, and like I'm kicking off a board, I'm rolling my foot on the ground. And it's going to tell me if I don't feel all of this tighten up, then I'm doing my kick wrong. I'm not going to get a lot of power in the snap. So when I'm here, if I throw the kick and I don't feel anything, I'm not leaning properly. So when I throw this kick, I'm going to kind of lean back to get that tensioning in the torso. Same thing goes with side kick. All you're doing is putting your weight and your counterbalance points, and you're throwing the kick, and you're throwing it slowly. You don't have to throw this fast. So I urge you, get a couple weights. You need to stack them up. These weights, when I stack them up and I throw like my side kick, I'm going to feel, depending on where I put these weights, where my tension point is. When I feel everything tighten up, that's what I need to focus on, because you're going to feel all the muscles cram into that, and that tells you where you need to snap the power out. Same thing with round kick. Round kick works in the same principle as the front kick. Your hands are just going to be in a different position. Once you learn where you need to tense in, it makes the kick a lot easier. You can get a lot more force behind the kick. And this is strength training for karate, or actually power transfer training in karate. So when we do karate and we get that transfer of power, that transfer of energy, we want to make that thing like a shotgun blast, boom, through the target. This is one of the ways we do that. And this is just diagnosing the kick early on. Now you're going to want to, once you figure out where that point is, you're going to train it against a bag or someone holding a target like a shield, or Muay Thai arm guards, or those square shields. Really, I want a shield or a bag, a heavy bag like what's over there on Makiwara, because that's going to give me a lot of feedback on if I'm kicking using my entire core to kick with. And that is how we generate power on kicks for the system. You can do so much with speed, but if you do not have the ability to transfer that torque into the kick, your kicks are going to be weak. So I want my kicks to be good and strong, and that's just kind of the way it is. I'm Instructor Ford. Thank you for watching. Also, a quick note on the sanchin video you're about to watch. Mr. Weaver is not doing the tiger strikes. They're optional. I'm adding them because there are little rib breakers in Ishinru, but he's just doing. Whereas I'm doing the tiger strikes, which are done with the knuckles. So I'm coming up. And that's your choice between the two. Honestly, you can do with or without. That's up to you. As long as key movements are there, that's all I count. So that tiger strike is optional. I like it because it's just another technique in your arsenal. And where it's hitting, you've loosened up their grip, you've knocked their arms down, and then you're folding in that knuckle strike into the base of the ribs. It's a beautiful series of technique. But yeah, just be aware, there are two different ways of doing sanchin being shown. Neither is wrong. There are a ton of different versions of sanchin out in the world. Not all of them are wrong, not all of them are completely right. It is based on the practitioner and where the practitioner comes from. So, I'm Instructor Ford. Please enjoy the sanchin section of this film. Hello everyone, Instructor Ford here. And I'm going to teach you the Ishinru version of sanchin. Mr. Weaver is right here with me. He comes on camera. We were just like, I got through with that last segment. I'm like, well, crap, I didn't even show them sanchin. And we're going to get into the two ways you teach this form, and we're doing the Ishinru karate version of sanchin. It's the easiest one to do, and you learn a lot of the same lessons as you do the other version of sanchin. It's just as effective. Now, you can choose to do twist punches or karate jab, no matter how your thumb placement is, if you do Ishinru punch or the standard thumb curled over. So we're going to walk through on sanchin the base movements for sanchin to make this happen. It's a total of 5 steps. Well, technically seven steps, but 5 steps transversing. And so the first step you're going to see is sanchin stance. So I'm going to kind of sink my knees in. I'm going to stand with my feet like this. So you're going to stand shoulder width apart, feet like this, and you're going to turn that foot in, bend your knees down, bring your hips up. Now, do not squeeze everything, and later on, that's a conversation for another time. But I am going to, on sanchin, when we get into the breathing, I'm going to roll my stomach muscles downward. I'm going to push air downward while I breathe it out my mouth. And we'll get into that in a second. So, the first movement, I'm going to bow. And Mr. Weaver, you can go front view, I'll go side view. So I'm going to bow, respect symbol, separate, and then I'm going to step forward, bring my blocks up. So I'm getting in sanchin stance, which is also a form of leg block because I can drop my knees into the target, bringing my hips in for alignment. So I draw back my left-handed chamber. No breathing on this, we're just going to do the technique. I come in, I punch, side block. So I'm going to roll this side block. I'm going to roll that side block. Now I'm going to release my hips, turn my lead foot. Now I'm doing the right hand. Punch, block, block. Now if you're on uneven terrain, this might change the way in which you tension. I'm kind of standing in a hole right now, so I'm not able to get my hips all the way out and sink my knees. Now I'm not in a hole. I can sink my knees. Punch, roll, block, roll your block, come in, punch, block, roll the block, bring in, punch, roll your block, roll your block, double soft block, bring up under the ribs. You're going to do kite into the ribs, slap block, tiger strike. Bring back in. You're going to do this 4 times. One more time. Then I'm going to fold my chops on top of each other. I'm going to step back into my sanchin. I'm back in the hole, so I have a little more knee sinkage into the back leg for balance. If you're on flat ground, it's going to be even. I'm in a hole, so it's not going to be even. That's the joy of working on uneven terrain. You're going to build your ligaments in your ankles and your feet way better on uneven terrain than wet terrain. So I'm coming and I'm going to hit high-low gouge. Some people do low-high palm. Either is fine. So I come here, bring again. I'm kind of on even ground again, so I can come in and hit. I'm going to bring my foot out of the V and 3 hits, and I come down here, expel the rest of my air, and then I bow. So that is sanchin movement in a nutshell. Play it back as much as you need to. You got front and rear view, and we'll get into the breathing. Now this form we're going to revisit all through your training, because from this day forward this is going to be your best friend, because sanchin teaches one very important lesson at this level, especially going into sparring. Not only does it teach that concept of being a moving wall, a shield if you will, it also teaches you how to breathe. So, alright, come up here. The most important thing for any beginner is your diaphragm, getting that air knocked out of you. This will keep you from getting that air knocked out of you as much. Because if there is no air in you, there's no air to knock out of you. Really, you're freezing the diaphragm. So when you get hit in the sternum, your diaphragm freezes as a defense mechanism, and it makes you feel like you're choking. We want to negate that as much as possible. So in sanchin training, you train to automatically exhale the rest away when you get hit. Give that air somewhere to go and train that diaphragm to sink. And that's why you're rolling from the top of your muscles. You're rolling down. And so sanchin, when I hit him, I'm going to hit him right about here on the Y of the uniform. That's the sternum. And so when I hit him, I want to hit him at this level, not real hard, but hard enough for him to test his breathing. So now before you learn sanchin, what would happen when you get hit in the sternum? Yeah, you lose your air. You lose your air, really your diaphragm's freezing. So this time, I'm going to hit you in the middle of doing sanchin breathing. So sanchin helps you learn how to take a punch. That's why it's being included here. You're getting into harder sparring in your school or with a training partner. Your sparring should be getting progressively harder. So when I do sanchin breathing, I come in through the nose. Now there are exercises you can do, like the windmill. And you just breathe in, and when you stop being able to inhale, you stop your hands, and then you move your hands at the speed of your breathing, and you come down, and you should run out of air or have enough for a quick puff when your hands return to neutral. That's your preparatory exercise for this, doing your basics of sanchin does well also. But this kata with sanchin breathing, and I'm in a hole again. So what I'm doing is every time I step in the hole, I'm like this. You can't see that side. Will's seeing it. Mm-hmm. He's just like, oh, you're at an angle. So I'm going to try and step in front of the hole. That looks like a good flat patch of land. I'm going to stick with this because that's deceptive. I need to mow. My mower, the tensioner pulley and arm
my
have
body
broken.
indentions from the throwing earlier. Probably.
Yeah, it may be body indentions. That sounds way cooler than I've not mowed in 3 weeks, and I'm getting a patch of clover to use as a mat for outside, which is nice. It's nice. I'm not gonna lie. But so we're going bow. Yeah, you're doing sanchin that way, man.
Gotcha. I'll get you.
That is sanchin kata. Instructor Ford, this is Mr. Weaver.